Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Generaider, or should I say pure Generaider, deck profile. Now this deck is a deck that I decided to do first before everything else because I didn't really have a whole lot of time to put anything else right now, but I still wanted to give you a very cool deck for, just for you to enjoy. Now, before we jump right into the video itself, there are a few things that I want to say. The first one is that we are pretty much around the time of the, or should I say even today, I guess, for the time of this released, the anniversary of the channel, and I'm not really 100% sure to what do special right now, but we'll see. I'm thinking about it, we'll see about it. And the other thing is that if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. It helps a ton, and it's really helped me want to make more videos. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about this list and what you will change for this pure Generaider list. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, so jumping into the list itself, we're going to start with the boss monsters first, and we're going to start with the 7 boss monsters that I run, which is 2 copies of Har, and then 1 copy of each of the others, which are good, which is Utgarda, Hela, Nidhogg, Duvelgus, and of course Mardell. These are the 7 boss monsters that I run. Technically you can run more, you can run even less actually, but I think like 7 is the standard good number. The only one that I missed, maybe at 2, is Hela, but I wanted to make a little bit more rooms for hand traps and stuff like that as well. Point is, you want to run this kind of like through 7 to 9, because 9, like more than 9 is too much, less than 7 is too less, so you want a decent amount, but you don't want too much. But what do all of these cards do? Well, I specifically also divided them for like their own particular things, because these are the guys that require 2 tributes, these are guys that require 1 tribute for their effects, and these are just the other ones. Point is, these are the important one, and Har is the only one of 2 because it's your main boss monster. In the case of Mardell, if you know plant links or things like that, this is basically a card that you summon there, but in its own archetype, you can search any plant except itself, or any Generaider card from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good. This is mostly what it does. Doesn't really need tribute or anything. In the case of this guy, he tribute any number of Generaider or machine monsters you control, and then you special summon any number of Generaider cards out of your hand in different names that are, and or machines of course, that are not like, you know, the same number that you tributed. I don't know why I get confused by that for a second, but the point is, this is your must special summon quick play spell, not quick play spell, quick effect monster that you can use if you really want that. Not really using it that much, but it is definitely a good one if you have cloggy amount of boss monsters that you want to just get out. It's definitely good for one of theirs. Sometimes I actually want to switch this guy with the fire one, because the fire one is protection, and it's really depend on the format. In the case of Nidhogg and Hela, both of these guys require only to tribute 1 of their own type slash their Generaider monsters, which is obviously with the field spell you get tokens, which we'll get to that when we'll get to it. But the point is, this guy is your, well, negate for summon, so it's kind of like a solemn on a stick. You tribute 1 Generaider monster and you negate a summon. And Hela is your revival card. You tribute a Generaider or a zombie and you revive any zombie or Generaider card out of your graveyard, which is pretty cool, except of course itself. Then for these guys, these require 2 tributes instead of 1. This one, if you tribute 2 rocks or Generaider monsters, you get to banish a card on the field. And this one is your main boss monster, the Odin. Basically, this is supposed to represent Odin in this archetype, because this is based on Norse mythology. But the point is, this guy right here, Har, Boss of Storms, this guy is the heart and soul of the deck when it comes to bosses, because he requires you to pop 2 spellcasters or 2 Generaider monsters, including tokens of course, and then you get to negate, get an Omni Negate. And the other effect is that if your opponent add a card to their hand except by drawing them in the draw phase, you get to basically make them send a monster out of their hand to the graveyard, which is actually really powerful, because there are a lot of effects for Generators that require you to just give your opponent cards or stuff like that to essentially, like, you know, mitigate that a little bit. You don't really have a whole lot of these, but you do have some effects that just give your opponent additional cards, so having the ability to just like, oh hey, I'm just taking a card out of your hand, that is pretty good. But that does it for the bosses. Like I said, you only need 7 in my opinion. If you run more than that, that's up to you. Now for the supporting engine, which is the Fairy engine, which I run 3 copies of Lapter Shadow boss, or Shadow of the Generator bosses, 2 copies of Condemned Witch, and 1 copy of Tiaris Hierarchia. I guess that's how you pronounce that one. Lapter is basically your Null and Fire Blossom for your own archetype. You can tribute itself or tribute any generator card, but then summon another generator boss level 9 from your deck that is a different name. Really, really good. It's also boosts your monsters by 1000 attack and defense during the opponent's turn, making them pretty beefy. And it's just generally a good card. This is the level 4 that the deck kind of needed. Very, very good. Condemned Witch is the other level 4. It's your other 2 tribute, like normal summons, because this one, on summon, search for your Forbidden Quick Play spell, which can be either Forbidden Chalice or Droplets if you own the cards. I don't own Droplets, so I only run Chalice, which Chalice is still really, really good. But the point is that during the opponent's turn, she can tribute herself and summon Lepter because it's a fairy level 4 from your deck, and then Lepter can continue on from there to then basically giving you the generator boss monsters that you want, which is pretty cool. And this one, just really, really useful, work really well with your tokens, work really well with these guys. This is just a free special summon if you have it. If you pop 2 fairies or tribute 2 fairies, you get to destroy a card on the field, and if you tribute 3 fairies for this card effect, you get to also draw 2 cards. It's just a good special summon from your hand or graveyard if you need it, and it's kind of like an interruption in case of your opponent Dark Ruling no more your entire field and you can do nothing, which sometimes actually can happen with Dark Ruler or Droplets, so you just have at least an interruption in hand or grave that at least does something, which that's why I like this card at 1, especially in this format. But that does it for the monsters of the deck, and speaking of hand traps, we're running actually a decent amount of them, which is 3 copies of Ash, 2 copies of Nibiru, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, and 3 copies of Gamma and the 1 driver. This is the hand trap package for the deck. Very, very good. Not really a whole lot to explain about this one. Gamma is absolutely amazing in this deck because you have a lot of effects that just require you to activate them when you have nothing on the field, or, you know, tribute your Lepter, you have no monsters on the field, your opponent will try to Ash. Oh hey, now I can stop you from ashing me. Very, very good. Ghost Ogre is just good in this format. Nibiru is just a good card that a lot of people don't expect, especially in Master Duel apparently. And then Ash Blossom is just a generically good hand trap. But that does it for the monster lineup. Honestly, nothing really much to explain about the monster lineup. It's actually pretty shorter than I expected it to be because the monster lineup is not the meat of the deck. The meat of the deck comes when we're getting to the spells, and it's a very specific one, which the deck really, really rely about, and that is the 3 copies of Boss Stage. Now, the reason I'm putting Boss Stage by itself, because I want to talk about it. Boss Stage is the heart and soul of the deck where it comes to what you want to do. This card allowing you that once per turn when a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the damage step, you get to special summon a generator monster from your deck. And it's also a soft once per turn, so if you have another copy of this, like, you know, set and ready to go with the trap, for example, which we'll get to it, you basically get to do this effect again and summon another generator boss. And then the other effect is the effect that is actually matter as well to just make your effects work, is that the moment that you special summon generator monster during the opponent's turn, you get to fill your board with tokens, which then you can use for the tributes of your generator effects. There are destroyed during the end phase, but it's still filling your board with 4 tokens, 5 tokens, depending on, or should I say 4 tokens, because technically you're only going to have 1 generator monster here, and then less fill with tokens. So it's basically up to 4 tokens you get to your side of the field, which is really good. This effect is a hard once per turn, and it's kind of like the entire idea. But one thing I would say is that this entire archetype depend on the field spell resolving. You don't care about the field spell staying, however, if the field spell resolve, you get the monster and you get the tokens. If the field spell will get destroyed later by the opponent, you don't care, you have 2 additional reserve copies in your deck for doing it again. It's not a field spell that you just rely on in order to just start your plays. It's just the field spell that you rely on to just basically get your negates, and you want to protect this card to actually get those. Once you get the negate, or the monsters that you want from deck. And the tokens, you don't care. You can just let this card be in destroy, you don't care, you have additional 2 copies. But that's why I also really like the Gamma, because Gamma just prevent my opponent just throwing Ghost Ogres and Ash on this and do nothing, because if I have no monsters and I still have this, I still have an additional protection for this card, although we do have a trap that kind of protects this one as well, which we'll get to it. But the point is, like I said, this field spell is the heart and soul of the deck. You just want this card to resolve. After that, you don't really care, but you want this card to resolve because it's really important. But that does it for that, and then for the additional card that I run, for the Generaider spell, I run 1 copy of Generaider, Boss Quest, 1 Terraforming, 3 Pot of Extravagance, 3 Monstrosity, and double Forbidden Chalice. These are just really, really good. Forbidden Chalice is searchable by our lovely, Condemned Witch. Monstrosity is an amazing card, basically a quick play spell to summon a level 9 out of your hand, or if you control level 9 2 from deck with different attributes and type from that monster, but destroy them during the end phase. But you don't really care about it that much, because either you're going to use them for Xyz summoning for a rank 9, or you're just going to use these guys as tribute fodder for your other effects, or you're going to use their effect to tribute themselves to get something else, and then you don't really care because you still get the effects intact, which is really, really cool. Pot of Extravagance, you banish 6 cards out of your extra deck, draw 2. If you have Pot of Prosperity, you might want to run that instead, but I think because we don't have King of All Calamities, this card at 3 is completely fine. In Master Duel, which we'll talk about it, you do want to run Pot of Prosperity instead, but in this deck, right here, Extravagance is completely fine. Terraforming is to search the field spell, and then Boss Quest is your reveal a Generaider monster, put it on the bottom of the deck, and then draw, or should I say search 2 Generaider spells and traps, which if we had a lot more Generaider spells and traps, I would say I would run this card at 2 or maybe 3, but unfortunately we only have 3 targets, and we don't really run a whole lot of boss monsters. We run only 7 that we want to put, because Lepter is the only one that I want to keep, although technically if you open up with 2 Lepters, you could put one of them in the bottom of the deck, but the point is, I like this card, but you don't resolve this more than once. If we had more lineup of good spells and traps, I would say this card is amazing, but for now, this is just as good as a one-off, and that is completely fine. But that does it for the spells. For the traps, we only run 3, which are the 2 copies of Boss Fight, and then the 1 copy of Boss Room. Boss Fight is your other way to get to the field spell. It's giving you the ability to activate Generaider field spell from your deck or graveyard, and then your opponent draw a card, so it's immediately activate the Generaider field spell effect. It is a shame that it's giving them a resource, but it's allowing you to, just like I said again, trigger the field spell effect again and fill your entire field if your opponent just get rid of your field spell, or you just don't see it, so it's additional 2 ways to see that. I don't really think you need 3 of this because it's a hard ones per turn, but, you know, it is what it is. If you want to run more, you're more than welcome to. And then Generaider Boss Room is the one of other trap that you want to search, because this one allowing you, then when an opponent activate a card or effect or respond off an activation or a Generaider card, including the field spell, you're able to discard a card and make the effect both players draw a card, which making it very, very powerful to just protect your field spell, and this is kind of like your other way to protect your effects or field spell, and also a way to play around droplets, which is actually kind of cool, because, like, let's say your opponent just trying to activate the droplets, most of the time they're not going to discard a trap, you're just going to activate this, and then they're not be able to droplet you. So I really, really like this card. This card is very, very powerful. But that does it for the main deck, 40 cards. Now we'll move on to the extra deck, and I'm going to say this right now, the extra deck for the most part doesn't matter. I'm just going to talk about the card that does matter, and the rest of them just you don't really care. You can run whatever you want to, because this is not the combo version, this is like the control version, and we rarely go into our extra deck except for 1 card. And the card that I'm talking about is 3 copies of Sacred Beast Tree, or Tree Beast. Then we also have the 1 copy of the Generaider Xyz monster, the Earth Slicer, the 9 Lives Cat, and the Phantom Fortress. These are just additional rank 9 good cards, but this is the one that you mostly want to go into if you activate a Monstrosity and you have 2 monsters that are going to be destroyed during the end phase, because this one is basically a monster negate, but if you also activate a spell or a trap during the turn, you can also attach a spell or a trap to it, so it's become also like a spell negate, I guess, most of the time, which is very, very good, so it's giving you options. But this one is just really, really the main one that you want to run. It's basically replaced Calamities from last update, because Calamities is banned, but if you we're talking about Master Duel, you will run Calamities at 1 as well, and you also just going to probably still run discarded 3, but run Prosperity instead. The rest of the extra deck is just really good utility, but you don't really care about it that much. And speaking of utility, we run 1 copy of Omega, 1 copy of IP, 1 copy of Cerberus, Phoenix, Lib, Unicorn, Appaloosa, and Underworld Goddess. Like I said, these don't really matter that much. If you want to run anything else, you can do that as well, but let me explain. Omega is for the Psyframe engine. IP is that if you're able to get 2 monsters and you are maybe able to use the token during the opponent's turn, maybe you'll be able to use to summon a unicorn. Lib is to activate after you activate 1 monstrosity to then get another monstrosity for a follow-up as well, which is pretty good. These are just removal. This if you're able to use your boss monsters to bring this to an additional interruption, and same goes with this one. Don't really matter that much, like I said a million times, but it's pretty important to know about nevertheless. But that's pretty much does it for the list as an overall. Very simple, very straightforward, very, very fun as well. I really, really like this deck a lot. I wish it just we got like additional really, really good spells and traps, because I think that's what the deck kind of needs. But other than that, very, very good deck, very fun, and the pure state is probably my favorite way to play this deck, because it just really feel like a boss deck. But that does it for the list itself. Now let's move on into the Master Duel changes. Right, so for the last thing that we're going to talk about for the deck list itself is the Master Duel stuff. Master Duel, there's really not a whole lot of changes. The only 2 main changes are the additional of Prosperity instead of, Extravagance, and of course the addition of King of All Calamities to the extra deck because it's still legal. Now if this card is going to get banned, change things back however you wish, and you can also just change back for Extravagance, but I'm just going to say this right now. I don't know the ban list of the Master Duel. I think the ban list is going to drop pretty soon, but if it's going to have Calamities banned, basically just switch the extra deck monster. It's not really a big deal. We don't really go into our extra deck that much. And then hand traps, of course, are depending on your format or what you want to play. I, of course, put Maxi because Maxi is amazing, but, you know, depending on what you want to play. But that's pretty much does it for this. Now we'll move on to the next deck choices. And for the next deck choices, not really much need to jump for that. We have the 3 returning options from last week, which are basically Cyber Dragons. I forgot what the other 2 are from the top of my head. I don't know why I don't remember. I think it's Time Thief and Shadows, if I remember correctly, but they should appear on screen if I forgot that. And then the new option I'm going to throw in is Unchained, because I haven't done Unchained for a very long time. So if you want to see any of these decks here down below, let me know in the comments down below which ones you want to see first. I already kind of know what people want to see first, but if there's something that you want to see more, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.